Hi everyone, Sean Humphreys here. Welcome to this edition of the Take Charge or Change podcast. In today's podcast, we're going to talk about the wisdom from 2,000 years ago that the Stoics developed that we can also apply to our life professionally and personally today. Okay, what in the world could a bunch of philosophers have developed for us that we can apply to our professional and personal lives today? Well, the reality is that the Stoics had a very well-ordered system of beliefs and a belief structure and wisdom that they put together to make sure that they could be resilient and to be effective in the world in which they lived. And when you think about it, the Roman Empire in that period of time was brutish. Life was short. It could be very, very tough to exist. It didn't matter whether you were nobility or a serf or a slave. I mean, life was very difficult. And so that randomness, the issues around short longevity, wars, pestilence, which were constant companions, were things that could really, really derail your effectiveness in any sphere of life. And so the Stoics developed this framework to help them look at the world in a way that allowed them to still be productive and to move forward with their goals without being completely overcome by the randomness that could be life at that time. Yes, we live random lives. There's circumstances that come into our situations that we have no control over. But think back to what it was like 2,000 years ago and maybe do a factor of 10 in terms of what things were like. So before we get into the topic, just a reminder, our model is we have professional resiliency. We're trying to cultivate whatever your current reality is. You probably have goals that you want to achieve over the next year. And yet we're fighting through inertia and all kinds of challenges. So we need to cultivate resiliency and resilient habits to make sure that we don't get derailed from our goals. We talked as well about this model of productivity. And there's different aspects to the model, but we've got cultivating our health and energy capacity. There's our creativity and enhanced focus. There is emotional intelligence. Of course, we've got aligning purpose and values to the things we want to do. That's rocket fuel. And our finances have an impact on productivity as well. So our topic today is going to kind of roll into different dimensions of emotion and, of course, creativity, enhanced focus. And I know you'll find it helpful content. Now, Ryan+holiday wrote a book about the wisdom from the Stoics, and I'm just going to give you a very short little summary bullet points just to get you thinking about these ideas. I'm not going to unpack them in a tremendous amount of detail. The main purpose of this presentation is to get you thinking about it, and then I would encourage you to Google Ryan+holiday. You'll see the books he's written around Stoic philosophy. I would encourage you to take out your Kindle or order the book on Amazon, and maybe over the holidays take a look at this information. So the first thing that the Stoics talk about is events don't upset you. Your beliefs about those events do. And I'll give you a classic example. When you look at the weather outside or the randomness of, jobs and whether we lost a job or didn't get a job, your beliefs about that situation have an incredible impact on your frame of mind around that. How can your day be ruined based on whether it's sunny or raining? I mean, it's your belief about what that means, not the event itself. And so events don't upset you, beliefs do. Emotions follow beliefs. They're not random. So when you experience negative emotions or positive emotions, those flow out of our beliefs about those things. So you always have to keep that in mind when you look at your state of mind, your emotional health, your ability to be positive and optimistic. And a lot of studies are coming out now that confirm that if you can keep an upbeat, positive attitude, you're going to be more effective in general. And so what do we need to do to sort of harness those emotions? We need to start with our beliefs about the things happening to us. There are no good or bad events. There's just perceptions about those events. Okay, so life directs things to us and we attach maybe meaning to those things, but at the end of the day, an event is an event. And so our perceptions of those events that really drive how we handle them. And of course, William Shakespeare had a quote which really hits this area bang on. Nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Okay, so that's a good summary of what we're talking about here. It's our thoughts about these events that drive our emotions. If we have negative emotions, that might undermine our resiliency and our effectiveness in our professional careers. Albert Ellis was the developer of cognitive therapy, which was really trying to revise your beliefs so that you can change your feelings and ultimately your life. So cognitive therapy's had a huge impact in the area of psychology and counseling and therapy, and we've got Albert Ellis to thank for it. But really, you go back to the Stoics and Stoic philosophy to sort of get to know the roots of some of the work that he did. So again, going back to the Stoics, control what you can and ignore the rest. In other words, a lot of things are going to happen to you, and this is straightforward, right? But we get drawn into things that are outside our sphere of control, and we really get upset about them. So what can you control? Ignore the rest. You only have so much energy. You only have so much time and focus. So begin to become an expert at what you can control and be able to separate that from other issues. The Serenity Prayer is wonderful as a way of sort of getting your heads around this notion, which is, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, living one day at a time. Great wisdom. So, can I do anything about this? So whenever something negative happens, you're now seeing, and feeling your emotions getting negative, ask yourself the question, can I do anything about this situation? If you can, begin to act. And if you can't, move on. So if you can, immediately set the task of writing down the things you can begin doing to deal with that issue, and then begin taking action. Don't stew, don't worry. Those are counterproductive. You need to act. Now, if your worry continues, so if you begin to sort of trying to break the cycle and you continue to have worry driving your concerns here, you need to ask yourself, what belief is driving this? And there could very well be things that are subterranean, things that are in your subconscious that are continue to move you back to these negative cycles in your life. And it may be helpful to talk to a therapist or talk to a counselor or talk to someone to unpack those beliefs for you. Because if you keep worrying about things that are outside your span of control, then there's something else going on in your life. And we need to make sure that we identify what we can control, ignore the rest, and always remind yourself of that sort of mantra from the Stoics. The next idea is accept everything, but don't be passive. So there's things that will come into our life. We just have to accept them. We may not be able to change them. But that doesn't mean we just resign ourselves to that situation. All it means is it's happened. We can't change that particular aspect of it, but is there a workaround? Is there an alternative? Is there something else that we can do in our particular situations? So acceptance does not mean giving up, right? It means we're going to try a different way of dealing with this issue. Now, the issue we're accepting, okay, well, we can't change, history. It's already happened. So what do we need to do now to get around it? Don't let expectations override reality. And, this notion of erasing should. Okay, so a lot of us will spend an awful lot of time just getting stirred up about, the way things should have been. We sort of anticipate, a wonderful holiday. We anticipate a wonderful date or romantic encounter. We anticipate, great weather when we go to the beach. And then when things don't happen the way we want them to happen, we get really, really upset. We anticipate that our kids will be well behaved, and when they're not well behaved, we get upset. We anticipate that we're going to have a smooth ride to work, but then we get into a traffic jam, we get upset. Get should out of your vocabulary. There's nothing in the world that should happen. You're not God, you're not controlling the universe, so stop doing that. Just accept what's going on and don't use should, and deal with the issues. Don't try to reframe reality. There's a lot of people going through life thinking about how things should have been and being worried and concerned and anxious and upset and mad. That's a complete waste. Get should out of your vocabulary. And denial is irrational. So the other worst case thing is you've got people who are denying the reality of their situation. So, accepting something, again, is not being passive, but you need to face these issues head on, not deny them, because once we name them, then we begin getting concrete about the things that we can do to deal with them. I thought this was a really good piece to Stoic philosophy, is choose whose child you'll be. So what do they mean by that? Well, first of all, they're encouraging you to move from inside your head to learning from others. So a lot of times we have this internal dialogue that's going on. We're trying to figure things out. We have positive thoughts, we have negative thoughts. We're trying to organize our thinking. We're trying to be logical. We're trying to make the best decision in the circumstances that we're in. But we've got limited experiences. We might be struggling in an area that we don't have a lot of experience in. And so we need to move from what's inside our head to learning from others, to becoming external in that focus and trying to find a way that we can learn from other people's experiences. And that's really where, you look at Seneca and you look at the other Stoic philosophers, they were really big believers in attaching themselves to, role models or mentors that could help them take their performance levels to the next level. That was a really, really important part of Stoic philosophy. And Seneca said, although you can't choose your parents, you can choose the children you can choose whose children you will be. So it's a great quote. We don't choose the first one, right? But then we can decide who we're going to attach ourselves to in terms of ongoing role models and mentors. The other thing that the Stoics talked a lot about was the importance of rituals in our lives. And again, a lot of us sort of bristle at that notion, but rituals can play a really, really important role to organizing our effectiveness. And so this notion of embracing morning and evening rituals was important to the Stoic philosophers, and to get ready for the day, to anticipate the day. And so they would bookend the day. They would frame the day in the morning. So morning rituals would be rituals where they would prepare themselves for the coming day, who they were going to meet, to get ready for the day. And evening rituals would be quick reflections to say, what did I learn through the day? How can I improve my performance or what I'm doing through the experiences I had through the day? And what did I learn? So it's sort of getting this notion of anticipation, planning, and then learning baked into your day. So a lot of us are we're not intentional at all in this area. We let day after day after day pass by, and we never spend the time to figure out what we can learn from those experiences. So in terms of morning rituals, they're important because if you have something to look forward to that can make your day interesting and exciting, manage your mood. So what can you do in the morning to manage your mood, whether it's devotional time or maybe you do prayer or meditation. So there's different things you can do there. Know your energy flow. Are you a morning person? Are you more engaged and energetic later in the day? So you want to organize your day in a way that captures your flow. Do something you dread. So one of the things that they talk about is the importance of take something you're really not looking forward to and put that into the early part of your day where maybe you have more energy and more capacity to deal with it. Send a thank you note. So when you look at your rituals, sending a thank you note, it just elevates us. It's just a good habit to be involved in. It shows gratitude and appreciation. It's just a good thing to do. And so if you haven't gotten the whole habit of saying thank you and sending notes, I'd encourage you to do that. And we have a video we produce which talks about we should move away from using email for that. Go back to the old low-tech method. Have a card, write it out, post it. And when people get that, they know you've taken the time. You've made a little bit extra effort to get that to them. And then plan out challenges. And so if you know there's challenges coming up in your week or your day, what things can you put in place to increase your ability to deal with those challenges head on? And show affection to loved ones. It's a great way to start the day. With affection, kind words, encouragement, build that into your ritual. Well, I hope you enjoyed this edition of the Take Charge of Change podcast. Just a few reflections. We have something called the Resiliency Lab Mentorship Groups, where we engage in educating teams, walking them through reflection exercises to create awareness about gaps in different parts of their productivity model. We help to instill habit formation so that their effectiveness becomes subconscious and automatic. We develop accountability mechanisms so we stay on track over the long term. And then we track progression and we try to notch up that effectiveness over time. So if you lead teams or are part of a group of people, senior executives, business owner with your staff, salespeople, reach out to us. We'd love to start a conversation about how our training programs can help you and your teams to be more effective as we go into the new year. You take care, be resilient.